Good evening and welcome to live coverage of round 5 of the RWB International Constructors Championship. I'm Rob Lomas, bringing you the action here tonight from a very damp looking circuit Paul Ricard in the south of France. Qualifying has just ended and everyone appears to have actually
crashed.
Got their lap times in early, as unfortunately we've just had ACC crash. So we'll get that fixed for you and get back as soon as we can. The Paul Ricard circuit being one of the a surprisingly hard circuit to drive in the game. As built originally in the late 60s, early 1970s, and then in the late 90s was turned into the high-tech test track, which is why there are the blue and red painted runoff areas which contain asphalt, but it's of differing friction, so it actually slows the car better. It's got Tech Pro barriers everywhere. It's got essentially enough runoff area for a car park for a relatively large shopping mall in a probably a medium-sized city of some kind, and it looks quite flat on paper, but actually there is a bit more elevation change than one perhaps might realise. Also been the home of the French Formula One Grand Prix for a little while now, since 2018 and 2019, and is also home to the traditional prelude in the GT World Challenge Europe to the Spa 24 Hours in the form of the Paul Ricard 1000 kilometers. And we are currently looking at Damien Lowe starting 25th on the grid in the Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo 2. We'll go through the grid quickly for you. On the back row of the grid, so let's try switch things up a little bit, is Crawford Brown in the Lexus and Magnus Dahlgren in the Audi. On the penultimate row of the grid, row 14, it's Sam Kruger and Nate Newcomer for Mercedes and Jaguar, respectively. Debug is alongside Damien Lowe on row 13, ahead of G4 and Giorgio Minga on row 12. Tom Carroll and Alex Goncalves are on row 11, with Xavier Eugeni and Kevin Shepherd on row 10. Parapau and Kostadinov are on row 9, with Billy Hutchinson and Berno Reitzmer on row 8. Row 7 contains Harry Hottie and Chris Brook, with Dan Birch and Sergio Lemke on row 6. Tom Atkinson and Emo Plate are on row number 5, with Craig Gilbert Wood being on row 4. And 8th place on the grid, and Crawford Brown is showing as being in the pits. Worryingly, has Crawford had a connection issue? I can't see his Lexus on the grid. Gosh, it really is wet out there. It's going to be quite hard for the drivers. Even more so, it's hard enough in the day here at Paul Ricard, let alone in the rain. We're still looking at Damien Lowe at the moment, waiting for the race to go green now, which it does. Good, clean start from everyone by the looks of things. We're still with Damien's car at the moment. Head into turn 1, the S de la Vraie. Still green flags waving as everyone tries to file through a very common pinch point in the opening laps. They head down through towards the Virage de l'Hôtel. Still riding on board with Damien Lowe. There's a Porsche there in the background. I think that's James Lacey. Lacey, currently 5th in the driver's standings, has dropped a very long way down the field in car number 997. There's all sorts of carnage going on there. I see Billy Hutchinson. I can see one of the McLarens there as well. Excuse me. Sorry. The Virage du Camp, Virage de la Sainte-Baume section of track as they all head onto the Mistral Straight for the first time. Damien up into 23rd place at the moment. I can't quite see anyone, unfortunately, further up ahead as they all head on this long run, well over a mile long, in fact, up the Mistral Straight towards Seine. It's a truly terrifying corner in the dry. And in the wet, it's taken quite a lot slower indeed. As everyone makes their way around there towards Bousset. There's another McLaren going off there as well. McLaren drivers really struggling in the conditions here, methinks. Lowe moving up into 19th place now. Nate's down in 29th. We're still riding with Damien Lowe. He's battling with Kevin Shepherd for 18th place. The track indicating it's damp. Damien there on the inside. There's a Jaguar going round. That's Xavier Eugenie, who's having a bit of a moment there. Everyone, I think, being caught out by the very wet conditions. There's Debug going as well, and that's going to impact James Lacey, excuse me. Damien Vilk has jumped into the pits in the Lamborghini. He's got an issue somewhere, or has had an incident somewhere, I might add. Unfortunately, I have no idea who is out front where, but all the usual suspects are at the sharp ends of the field. I noticed Jack Alexander was starting a relatively lowly 5th on the grid tonight. We've got Eddie Warden as well. He's also towards the front of the field as well. Still with Damien Lowe at the moment. Wondering whether the cameras are on auto or not. I don't think they are. So excuse me one sec. Oh, as Damien Lowe has a little bit of a spin there. Unfortunately, he's going to hit the guardrail on the Mistral Straight. Meanwhile, I think Damien might, unfortunately, be out of the race in the Lamborghini. Craig Gilbert-Wood up into 8th place now. And Damien now down into 28th place at the moment. Still focusing on Damien's car at the moment as Jack Alexander has come into the pits as well in the Porsche. Perhaps unsurprisingly, given he was involved in a couple of incidents there on the opening lap. Unfortunately, that might have actually done a bit of damage to his car. Kevin Shepherd also coming in as well. Okay, never mind that. I might have to try and fix that a little bit later on. Still following Damien Lowe here at the moment in the Mercedes as he heads down the Mistral Straight. And through the run onto the Mulsanne he comes right now. And sorry, excuse me, he's actually coming through towards the tail end of the lap. Excuse me, sorry, coming through. You can just see on the inside there the little bit of the bit of track they built recently, actually, for the Bol d'Or. Big 24-hour bike race they still have here at Paul Ricard. Oh, and in fact, we are now currently looking at the battle now towards the front of the field here. We're actually looking at Todor Kostadinov in the Lexus, who is currently battling with Debug at the moment. Now looking at Jack Alexander, who's trying to fight his way back up through the field after a very, very unscheduled pit stop. In fact, Jack Alexander is actually the championship leader, so I'm wondering if he's also been involved in an incident somewhere. Now, the Porsche theoretically thrives in these conditions, being rear-engined, all that extra weight over the rear wheels, but you can just see from the onboard how hard he's having to work the wheel there. And coming down the Mistral Straight at the moment, he's in top gear at the moment, normally down to about 5th in the dry for scene. He is holding it. In fact, he goes down another gear into 4th as well. Such are the conditions and how treacherous they are. Damien Vilk is back in the pits for his first pit stop of the race. Excuse me. Now we're... so is Kevin Shepherd. He's also come in as well. I'm looking at Tom Carroll in the McLaren. Been some fairly tricky conditions so far for the drivers here. And currently with Craig Gilbert-Wood at the moment in 5th place. It's still Hugo Gomez, Harry Hottie, Eddie Warden, Sam Kruger, Craig Gilbert-Wood, G4, Magnus Dahlgren, Mad Al, Sergio Lemke and Dan Birch. That's the top 10, although Gilbert-Wood has just been passed by G4, who has sent it up the inside into Hotel, Village de la Hotel. Gilbert-Wood's now down to 6th place in the Lamborghini as they come through this sequence of corners. Village de la Sainte-Baume and onto the Ligne Droite du Mistral, the Mistral Straight, for the 1 and a bit mile blast up towards Scene. The main battle for the lead of the standings is between Porsche at the moment and Nissan. Porsche having won every single race so far. We see Toby Atkinson. We go on board with him now. He's got MO plate. Excuse me. So right there behind him, and in fact, Plate gets the position on the Mistral on the run up into Scene. Now Debug is right behind in the Bentley. Of course, there was a bit of an incident, shall we say, at the end of the last race between involving Debug, who had parked up post-race at the side of the track, only to get hit from behind by one of the other Nissans, not Toby Atkinson. It was the car of Berno Reitzma. And so this could be a little bit interesting here between them. Debug going to try round the outside, take the karting line effectively, in the sense that more grip on the outside in the wet. Not quite able to get close enough, though, for a run into turn one, I don't think. Come down the hill towards the first chicane once more. Majority of the field yet to pit so far. Given that Jack Alexander's down in 23rd at the moment, and Crawford Brown I don't think has actually taken the start here. This could be quite the payday indeed for Samuel Kruger, who's currently got the fastest lap of the race, as Tom Carroll has been given a drive-through penalty presumably for track limits, which, given how hard the McLaren appears to be in these conditions, is going to be, and how easy it is to get done for track limits here as well. It might be a case of this could be the first of many. Track is currently showing as damp at the moment, as Nathaniel Shirley comes in to make his second and final pit stop. Already, the track conditions as damp, no rain in the immediate forecast. This could be quite interesting indeed. See who's going to try and maybe even risk an early change onto slicks here. So could get quite spicy indeed, to say the least. Reitzmer with a Mercedes just in front of him. Maybe Lemke, I think, if Lemke's had an incident somewhere at all. There's a McLaren right behind him as well. That could be Minga. I'm not 100% certain. We're going to have to wait a sec to see. Currently looking at Billy Hutchinson right now, up into 15th place. And indeed, it is Minga in the Mercedes. I do apologise to Sergio, as Damien Vilk has also racked up a drive-through penalty as well. Carapo is in the pits. Alexander is in the pits as well, both for their first pit stops. Shirley and Shepherd in the BMWs both have a clear run to the end now, as Minga is going to have a look at MO plate. Close to sitting on the inside. He's got Billy Hutchinson there with him going round the outside, which he does. Hutchinson's got the inside line for the next corner, though. Minga, is he going to be able to... manages to put up a very valiant defence indeed. Not quite able to hold off the Porsche Billy Hutchinson. He's now got Reitzmer, Berno Reitzmer, right there with him for good measures, as I think there's a car off on the Mistral there, which they've just gone past. Maybe Hutchinson, because Hutchinson has dropped back a fair bit, actually. Carapo's come into the pits for his first pit stop as well. And we're currently watching through scene in the Mercedes. And heading into Beausset once more. Very tricky corner with multiple lines is Beausset. Heading into Bendor now. Minga. Oh, I thought he was going to have a look up the inside there. Just not quite close enough to try and pry the door open. There's Lemke moving. I say moving, already up into 9th place in another one of the Mercedes entries. There's a car just going off the track slightly in front of him there, but Sergio holding on rather well indeed right now in the big Merc. There's Harry Hottie in the lead for Lamborghini. Going to be a very good result for race for Lamborghini, actually, as Hottie, Warden and Gilbert Wood are all in the top 6 at the moment. Hutchinson's come in for his first pit stop as well, I've noticed. Sam Kruger in 2nd place with no scores for Crawford Brown and Jack Alexander at this rate. Kruger is going to actually leapfrog Brown into second place in the drivers' standings. Alexander does have enough in hands, though, after winning the first 4 races. The sun comes up here at Paul Ricard. We're on board with Toby Atkinson. Excuse me, I don't know why. I think I may have called him Tom earlier. Sorry about that. The GTR GT3. Nissan currently leading the constructors' standings at the moment, ahead of Porsche, thanks to the consistency of all 4 drivers. There's Magnus Dahlgren in the Audi, currently in 7th place at the moment, doing a fine job indeed, as is Mad Al right behind him, as G4 comes into the pits for his first pit stop in the Lexus. Everyone's moved up a place. Dahlgren, Al, Lemke, now running 6th, 7th and 8th. And now back to the battle for the lead between Hottie and Kruger. Now back to the battle between Reitzmer, Minga and Lowe. 2 Mercs, 1 Nissan. Could get quite interesting indeed, if I may say so myself. G4 still showing as being in the pit, so I'm wondering if he's got a little bit of damage on that Lexus somewhere. So that could be one to keep an eye out for. Reitzmer still just holding on ahead of Damien Lowe and Giorgio Minga at the moment. Gaggle of cars all head onto the Mulsanne straight. Berno is actually on the offline at the moment, trying to cool his tyres down clearly. And he is suffering a bit in the big Nissan. The track conditions have now improved to greasy. Damien's going to try and have a go round the outside. And in fact, he's already well clear of the Nissan as they get to the second timing split, as Hutchinson and Carapo coming for their second stops. And that's Damien up into 15th place in the grey and red Mercedes. Minga is in the grey and yellow car for reference. Not quite close enough to send it into Bendor. And now we're looking at Dan Birch with Debug. As Craig Gilbert Wood's come into the pit, so they're just going to go past him now. There's the Porsche Billy Hutchinson there, just coming out of the pits. There's Sergio Lemke just in front of these two as well. This is the battle for 8th and 9th on track at the moment. Debug in the blue Bentley Continental GT3. Gonna have a look up the inside. Is he into hotel? Having to go around the outside for the second part. It's got the inside though for Virage du Camp. Manages to get it done. He's still on the inside for the second part of the corner and is able to just about sneak in front before they get onto the Mulsanne straight in the big Bentley. Oh, sorry about that. But Debug has been repassed by Birch on the Mulsanne. Birch making use of the slipstream there in a very big way indeed. Jack Alexander now showing as being holding the fastest lap of the race. A fantastic bit of symmetry. He's in car 22 in 22nd place. As Kruger, meanwhile, comes into the pits from the lead briefly. Now dropping down to 4th as we speak, as Eddie Warden gets the fastest lap now, as track conditions are definitely improving here, I think it's fair to say, at Paul Ricard. Looks as if the weather's going to be actually really rather pleasant indeed for the remainder of the race. Birch also in the Nissan. Watching Magnus Dahlgren and Mad Al at the moment. Running fairly close together. Battle for 5th place here. Well, 4th actually at the moment, because Kruger's in the pits. As are Damien Lowe and Giorgio Minja. Battle going on between Goncalves and Lacey for 14th place. Lacey getting up the inside there on the way into turn 1, and making up the position very well indeed. Dropping Goncalves, I was saying making up the position, just about holding on to the position, in fact. They were heading through turn 1. Currently looking at Goncalves in the McLaren. Kruger, the next driver behind him. Now looking at Hugo Gomez in the BMW M4 GT3. Now back to the battle between Dahlgren and Al for 4th place. Al still hanging on to the coattails of Dahlgren. Now looking at the battle for the next battle up the road between Eddie Warden and Hugo Gomez. It's saying for 2nd place. This is for the lead because Harry Hotty's coming to the pits. Coming down the pit straight now, and we cut back to the battle for 4th between Dahlgren and Al. Have to keep you updated on the situation just up the road. Currently P3 and P4 because of Hottie being in the pits for fuel and tyres. And heading at the far end of the circuit now. There's Eddie Warden, still Hugo Gomez just behind him at the moment. Currently back to the battle for 4th place. The car in front of Al is an Audi, and Nico Perez in the YouTube chat has asked, there are some new cars coming to ACC. Are any of the new cars in the race tonight? No, there aren't. I can tell because the Audi is the only GT3 car out of the new cars, and this has clearly got the 2019 spec rear wing mount on it. Al having a little look up the inside there at Beausset. Hottie, meanwhile, has only gone and managed to collect a 30-second stop-and-go penalty. We'll ignore that for now, though, because Mad Al is going to have a go up round the outside Bendor, getting ever closer to the Audi of Magnus Dahlgren. Now we look at Nate Newcomer's car. G4's got a drive-through penalty as well, presumably for one too many breaches of track limits. And back to the battle out front here. Dahlgren is going to peel into the pits now. Clearly struggling with his tyres, I think, there. And Mad Al was giving him a damn good run for his money. And just see Crawford Brown's Lexus in the background there. Unfortunately, taking no part in the race. The driver who is 2nd in the standings at the moment. Chris Brook currently 6th place for McLaren tonight. coming through the opening few corners now. And heading around this twisty technical section here, you can just see Kostadinov in the Lexus. Ahead of him, there's Kostadinov in the Lexus. There's Billy Hutchinson in the Porsche. There's Chris Brook in the McLaren. Hossie is coming for his drive-through penalty as Hutchinson makes his way past Emo Plate to unlap himself once more. Eugenie's in the pits. Goncalves also in the pits. Dahlgren's also got a stop and go plus 30 for speeding in the pit lane as well. A lot of drivers collecting penalties here. It feels almost reminiscent of the Sebring 12 Hours, which I was producing at the weekend for IMSA Radio and Radio Le Mans, where we were discovering pit lane penalties that we actually hadn't even heard of before, as the teams collectively decided to collect them as if they were Pokemon, because, you know, got to catch them all. And it feels kind of similar to that now. So that's the situation on that. We're currently looking at Billy Hutchinson in the Porsche. Porsche's doing a bit better now in these conditions. Alexander, and having made a very early pit stop, might actually be in quite a good position here. At this rate, there's Hugo Gomez in the lead of the race. About to lap Minja. Minja on the inside. So on the outside, excuse me. Gomez on the inside as they head down the Mistral. Gomez in the big BIM WM4. Mad Al has come in for his first pit stop as well. As Dahlgren comes in for his stop and go penalty for good measure. So it's looking very, very interesting indeed so far. G4 still not yet served his drive-through penalty. I'd imagine he'd be doing that relatively soon. Sun is rising here at Paul Ricard. There's someone in the background pulling into the pits. That's Eddie Warden from second place in the Lamborghini. Currently looking at Giorgio Minga, who's got a Lamborghini right behind him. That's Harry Hottie. Harry having made one pit stop and then another trip to the pits for a penalty. Dropped down the field quite some way. Currently on board with Dan Birch at the moment, about to be passed by Jack Alexander, which indeed he is, as I believe Alexander's in the Rutronic liveried car, and indeed Birch is now showing us down in 10th place, as that's Emo Plate's Ferrari right behind him. Jack Alexander making good use of the Porsche's strengths in these conditions to go further up through the field. Of course, Jack Alexander is actually the only driver to have won a race so far this season. He's won all 4 of the previous races. He's led 81, before tonight, had led 81 out of 130 laps. Maybe he was just wanted to go a little bit further down the field to spice things up a bit. Who knows? So, who knows indeed, as G4 comes in for his drive-through penalty. Dan Birch in the Nissan. Got Emo right behind him there as well. They head once more onto the Mistral Straight. There's G4 coming out of the pits in the Lexus. That wasn't for a pit stop, that was to serve his drive-through penalty. Lost a few positions, down to 19th at the moment. Excuse me. So there's Damien Lowe in the Mercedes just ahead of him. Well, Hugo Gomez is in the lead. It's worth noting that he's also the highest placed BMW by some considerable margin, as Nathaniel Shirley is in 20th place and Kevin Shepherd is in 26th. Both drivers, I should add, have served their 2 mandatory pit stops. So they don't have that to worry too much about. So should be moving up the field in a little bit, I reckon, as the pit window filters everything through. Everyone still pushing on as they come through. Dean once more into Beausset. Chris Brook coming out of the pits in 10th place. Has got a Nissan GT up the inside, and that's Birch, so that's dropped him down to 11th as well. The McLaren behind is a lap down. I can't quite tell who that was, unfortunately. Meanwhile, we're on board with Sergio Lemke leading the race for Mercedes. And doing a sterling job indeed. Have a look at some of your comments in the YouTube chat at the moment. Cos said the consensus with was the Lambo was on the edge even with TC, and having not driven the, I don't know if this is the GT3 or the Super Trofeo, or indeed potentially even a newer spec of either, but I would actually be fairly interested to find out for myself what they are like. Some posts in Spanish as well from the Hugo Gomez fan club. I think I say that because my Spanish is at best not brilliant, at worst just terrible. So I won't have a go at trying to pronounce any of it. Also, Nico Perez, I see 2 stops are mandatory. Is it mandatory to change tyres, refueling those stops, or what are the rules at the stops? I honestly don't know, to be honest, but given the conditions at the start of the race, a lot of drivers would be doing a full tyre change at some point in the pits to change from wets to slicks, given the conditions. So I don't think you need to change tyres or refuel. Maybe put like 1 litre of fuel in, perhaps. But given the particular circumstances this evening, I think there will have been a full tyre change occurring as well. As Craig Gilbert Woods coming into pits, we're looking at Sam Kruger as he's battling James Lacey for 4th place. Lacey still yet to make his first stop, though. Something which a few drivers have already done, even ahead of him, including Sam Kruger and Jack Alexander, both of whom have just got past Lacey. So I think Lacey might be coming into the pits fairly soon, I'd imagine, given the relative ease at which he was overtaken by Kruger and Alexander, and the the gap the pair of them have managed to pull on him already, I'm going to go out on a bit of a limb and put forward the hypothesis that the tyres on that Porsche are absolutely wrecked. So he should be coming in fairly quickly. Cos, thanks for that, mate. Thanks for the clarification. It was indeed the DLC. So, no doubt for those of us who merely have the game on console, we'll be getting sometime around mid-2023 then. Jack Alexander, meanwhile, has come into the pits in the Porsche, as has Toby Atkinson. Meanwhile, we're looking at Damien Lowe here battling with Nathaniel Shirley and Goncalves. It's battle for 15th place here. Lowe dropped down to 17th. Both Goncalves and Lowe still need to make an extra pit stop, so if I were Shirley, I know Shirley, with all due respect, is a little bit quicker, maybe, but it might just be best to actually wait for them to come into the pits and then really put the hammer down. Jack Alexander's just left the pits in 12th place, but has made his final pit stop this evening. There's Goncalves. In fact, Goncalves has already been passed by Nathaniel Shirley. So Shirley now up into 14th place, as Emo Plate has just received a drive-through penalty for track limits. So that's not gone brilliantly for him. There's Damien Lowe running a little bit wide there, battling with Goncalves. That's going to bring Nate Newcomer into the mix in the Jaguar, the kind of vehicle you'd find in your local antiques centre. Although Damien Lowe really getting a good run here off Goncalves. And Lowe might actually be able to reclaim 15th place. He's currently ahead of Goncalves at the moment. He's going to have the inside line for Scene. And holds onto it. Nate really closing up there as well through Scene. Goncalves trying to maybe have a look up the inside on the way into Beausset, maybe to try and actually defend from Nate's Newcomer. Just about does. See so many differing lines there. Oh, maybe just a little bit of a tap there from Newcomer on the back of Goncalves' car. Newcomer running wide. That's bringing Atkinson into the mix in the GTR as well. Oh, kicking off here with just over a quarter of an hour to go. Birch currently in the pits from 9th place in another one of the GTRs. We're on board with Goncalves in the McLaren at the moment. Dahlgren yet to make his final pit stop from 21st. Goncalves having a little bit of a moment there as Emo's come in for his drive-through penalty. Thought Nate was going to actually try and have a go at getting past Goncalves, but he's decided to head for the pits lane. And Goncalves on the outside. He's got the Nissan of Atkinson on the inside. Atkinson's going to get the position there, I think. Indeed, not quite. Goncalves just about holding on at the moment. This is bringing Harry Hottie into the mix as well. Don't actually know where Damien Lowe is, unfortunately. There is just in front of these this little lot here. Goncalves 16th, the Nissans of Atkinson in 15th, Harry Hottie in 17th for now. See Craig Gilbert-Wood just in the background there in another one of the Lamborghinis. Another comment on the chat. Hugo Gomez is faster than my father buying cigarettes. He is a pretty quick driver. Hugo is, to be fair, leading the charge for BMW tonight. Still ahead of, in fact, quite some way ahead of Shirley. Nathaniel Shirley in 13th, for reference, and Kevin Shepherd in 26th. So Gomez well and truly bringing home the bacon for BMW this evening. Currently watching Goncalves losing a bit of time now to Hottie and Atkinson. I do get the feeling that Goncalves might actually be struggling a little bit here. His tyres track showing us fast now, so could get quite interesting indeed. Debug has come in for his final pit stop in the Bentley, and Goncalves is in fact actually going to be coming into the pits now. There's a Hottie just ahead of him, past Crawford Brown's Lexus. There's Goncalves in the pits. There's now looking at Todor Kostadinov, battling away with Eddie Warden for 5th place here. Pair of them still pounding around. Warden up into 5th there on the Mistral straight. Still a few pit stops needing to occur. Gomez has come in for his 2nd and final pit stop. One is showing some slight concern now for James Lacey and our race leader, Sergio Lemke. Both of them yet to make their first pit stop, so they've been holding on big time so far. Kruger's come into the pits as well for Mercedes. Lacey also joins them in the pits, as does Chris Brook and Kostadinov. There's a bit of a party in the pit lane at the moment. Dahlgren needs to pit again from 16th place, but has the fastest lap of the race. That was Carpow we just saw there coming past. Emo battling away with Debug here. Debug trying to find a way past Emo's Ferrari. There's Damien Vilk in the the Lamborghini. Now back to Emo in the Ferrari. And now back to Damien Lowe in the Mercedes. Damien also needing to make a pit stop. Looking at his lap times, preferably in the next couple of laps for the last few pit stops. Alexander now up into 5th place. Should be able to move up. I'd imagine, well, I say 5th place for Jack Alexander. It's more like a net 4th place at the moment. Owing to Mad Al needing to pit. Giorgio Minja comes in. Sergio Lemke has come in for what I think might actually be the Brazilian driver's first stop of the race. And that's going to drop him down a little bit as well. So effectively, Jack Alexander is in net 3rd place, I'd say. This is going to shuffle a few drivers around a little bit. Damien Lowe, Magnus Dahlgren, James Lacey, Mad Al and Sergio Lemke all needing to make their final pit stops. There's Nate's newcomer in the big Jag. Down in 21st place right now, which, given that he's on one of the twistier bits of Paul Ricard, is doing pretty good indeed, although they're now on the Mistral straight. But the Lamborghini does appear to be closing somewhat. The Lamborghini of Harry Hottie, car number 33. Is he going to have enough on the inside? Not quite. Having to back out of it a bit there to avoid a very high speed coming together at scene. Damien Lowe just coming into the pits now for his final pit stop. So Dahlgren, Lacey and Lemke are going to be leaving it very, very late indeed, I must say. So late, still holding on to 17th place here ahead of Debug. I'll say 17th, actually 16th, excuse me, because Damien Lowe is in the pits. Currently looking at Mad Al, who also needs to make a pit stop. Probably this lap. So Nathaniel Shirley, I think, is there as well in the BMW. Is that Kevin Shepherd? I'm not 100% certain. It might be Kevin, actually. As Sergio Lemke comes in with about 1 minute and 28 seconds left on the clock. There's Al coming into the pits as well. Are we going to be seeing James Lacey and Magnus Dahlgren join them? There's Lemke leaving the pits now. There's Al coming up to his pits box. There's Kruger in 6th place, coming past the pits now. Heading into turn 1, just ahead of Lemke right there. So Lemke's dropped down to 5th place. Up into 4th for Samuel Kruger. Lacey is in the pits as well. Dahlgren should be following him in fairly soon, I'd imagine. Which indeed he does. Right on cue, with about 20 seconds left in the pits window. In the YouTube live chat, Cos saying, I want to see the live stream of Nahuel's dad buying cigs. Nahuel saying he wants to see Hugo Gomez's car because it's faster than light. And it's so fast, in fact, it's not actually in frame. And by not in frame, and actually quite some way further around the lap. There's about there's a decent gap so far between Gomez and Warden, then about 22 seconds separating Warden and Jack Alexander in the battle for second in the race. Kruger being a bit further behind as well. Craig Gilbert-Wood just battling away with Chris Brook there for 10th place. Coming round Bendor once again. Another cut through there. No, such as the runoff area on this circuit, you could almost redesign the entire circuit and still have enough runoff area for stuff like barriers and that, and still meet FIA safety criteria. Such is the amount of space to play with here. Coming past the pits once more is Craig Gilbert-Wood in 10th. It's a 158.1, I believe that was last time by. Coming up towards Virage del Hotel, Virage du Camp, and a few corners later is a Virage de la Sainte-Beau. Meanwhile, battle for 14th here between Emo and Debug. Still going on, and Debug's going to have a look up the inside into Virage de la Hotel. He pulls it off, keeps the inside line tight there for the second part of the corner into Virage du Camp now. Still holding on is Debug. So Debug with a cracking move there to get up into 14th place, as Damien Lowe has just copped a drive-through penalty for presumably track limits, I'd imagine. So that's very, very unfortunate indeed for the Mercedes driver. Ah, there we go. That's better. I can actually see the standings once more now. Emo's still not giving up, actually, to be fair. He's right on the back of Debug's car as they head into Beausset. This long double apex right-hander. Heading up towards Bendor now, of course, used to be be quite a fast chicane actually just before there, but that was reprofiled back in the 90s when it became the high-tech test track. On board with Damien Lowe. It's got Harry Hottie trying to find a way past. Now, if Harry had any knowledge of what was going on, he wouldn't be making that much effort to try and get past Damien, because Damien's got a drive-through penalty. So that's going to be quite interesting to see how that plays out. Meanwhile, Kruger is battling away with a Lamborghini, which I'm fairly certain is the Raccoon car number 21 of Damien Vilk. Damien comes in for his drive-through just now. Side by side down the Mistral straight they come on this long run up towards Scene. It is actually slightly uphill as well, to be fair. Track conditions now optimum, so this is going to be a nice fast end to the race here. Dahlgren still with the fastest lap of the race in the Audi. Currently 21st is Magnus at the moment. Gap now fairly steady, around 5 seconds, and about 2 laps to go here, so Gomez theoretically can kind of off a little bit now, take it a little bit easier, ease off the pace a bit, but as many a racing driver has found out, when you do that you can also lose your focus and make a right mess of things. So it's not the best idea in the world, but nevertheless, the gap's still relatively steady at the moment. Should be 2 more laps. Well, this lap and 1 more in the race. So currently watching Kruger in the Mercedes at the moment, currently P4. Another good result for him, and those 56 points are going to put him up to 2nd in the driver's standings, ahead of Crawford Brown. Eddie Warden doing quite good indeed. He'll jump up at least 1 place past Reitzmer. In fact, he's going to probably jump up a 2nd place as well, because James Lacey's down in 23rd, so that'll be at least 2 places, I'd imagine. Don't think he'll be able to get 4th in the standings ahead of Dan Birch, excuse me. Currently looking at Reitzmer, who's just ahead of Debug. The 2 drivers involved in that incident at the end of the previous race at the Nürburgring. So, yeah, this could get a little bit interesting, methinks. Debug pulling out of the slipstream now, pulling clear in the big Bentley. On the outside, he's just ahead now. He pulls ahead. Reitzmer giving up the position there. And through Scene now. So Debug up into 13th place, and no collisions between them this time, so all well and good indeed. Jack Alexander, for what it's worth, should still be leading the driver's standings, although no doubt he'll be incredibly disappointed to have finished in 3rd place tonight. Is a very, very disappointing result, I'd imagine, for him, to merely be finishing in 3rd place. Although, mind you, when you've won the other 4 rounds so far this season, I think you would get used to winning. So that's going to be that. But no, still a very good result indeed, given the shenanigans at the start on the opening lap in the greasy, damp conditions, shall we say. Meanwhile, here's Sergio Lemke in 5th place, and we cut to him because he's got the BMW of Nathaniel Shirley right on his rear wing and rear diffuser, and Shirley pulls out the slipstream. Shirley, I think these two are a little bit too far back to be getting a double toe from Damian's Lamborghini. Shirley going to go round the outside and ballsy move there from Shirley. Lemke actually missing round the outside there. Meanwhile, whilst we were looking at that, Hugo Gomez has won the race this evening in the BMW M4 GT3. Eddie Warden's come home in second. Battle going on here between Kostadinov and Mad Al for 8th place at the moment. We'll... in fact, for 7th place, excuse me, Al having claimed the position from Kostadinov. Jack Alexander has come home in 3rd place. Eddie Warden in 2nd. We're still currently looking back at Mad Al at the moment. There's Kruger coming home in 4th place. Lemke should be coming home in 5th. There's Damien Lowe 23rd. Shepherd 24th. Minga 25th. Vilk 26th. Lemke's come home in 6th. Mad Al should be crossing the line now in 7th. There's Kostadinov in 8th. Birch 9th. Gilbert Wood rounding out the top 10 there. There's Chris Brooks should be crossing the line shortly. Indeed he does. There's Atkinson across the line. Debug's going to come home as well in 12th or 13th. Because drivers have already left leaving the server. So Reitzmer should be... So there's Hutchinson, excuse me, getting ahead of Reitzmer on the final lap. Then Plate coming across the line. G4 as well. Another good performance from him. And Harry Hottie in the Lamborghini. Now we've got this battle here between Dahlgren and Newcomer. Dahlgren giving Newcomer a bit of an extra boost coming out the final corner there. And Newcomer holding on to the position as there's Eugenie and another one in the McLarens as well. I think that was Carapote just crossing the line there as well in 24th place. And Eugenie and everyone else has just crossed the line. There is an absolute limbs fest going on in the Hugo Gomez fan club this evening. Fans going absolutely wild as we speak, as Hugo Gomez wins for a BMW. Quite what this does to the constructors' standings. Well, BMW are definitely going to be moving up certainly a couple of positions ahead of Lamborghini tonight. Lexus maybe as well, I'm not sure. Still fairly close between Nissan and Porsche at the top of the standings, despite Jack Alexander not winning and merely coming home in 3rd place. Still very much all to play for, but still incredibly tight in the midfield, and Jaguar doing the best they can given the circumstances as well. So, another fantastic race this evening, and coming up for the rest of the week, we got Wreckfest Wednesday, which is going to be a cracking laugh as per usual. We've got the Pro Rookie weekly ranks race on Thursday night. Then the big GT1s are back on Friday on Automobilista 2. And then we've got the Formula RWB series on Saturday night. Also, coming up at the end of the month, we've also got the Coalition Cup Part 2, Where Eagles Dare, which is a fantastic Iron Maiden song. I can confirm having seen it live. We're in addition with our friends at RRL, as well as TSR and SCB Sim Racing, for a 4-race series in the Aquila CR1. And then on April the 9th, we've got the 12 Hours of Barcelona, with a full 50-car entry. You do love to see it. My thanks, as always, to Nate Newcomer for hosting the stream and fixing the slight technical issue we had earlier on this evening before the race kicks off.
That
Sorry.
technical issue is me forgetting to hit auto.
Ah, fair enough. Fair enough. Sorry about that. But as always, I've been Rob Lomas, and as always, it's bye for now.